In the meantime, I wanted to just touch on this. We had a really interesting interview yesterday on the show talking about, well, actually, we're talking about restaurants in Canada and how in the wake of these potential threats, how they were concerned that, you know what, this is not going to be working out well for them, and suggesting that the government actually, I guess, get ahead of this situation by going ahead and, doing what it has to do to allow restaurants to stay in business. And one of the examples given, I want you to hear this quote. This is pretty amazing. Things we don't understand about how things work in this country. So listen to this on how our hamburgers get to us.
We are really interconnected. A single burger may contain a bun made in California from Saskatchewan flour, beef from cattle born in Alberta, raised in Nebraska, and processed in Colorado, tomatoes from Ontario, and bacon from Manitoba pigs processed in Iowa. I mean, that's just one burger.
One burger. That's how it takes. And this is, of course, the deal with many Canadian industries, right? Things that cross over one border, come back, and back and forth. That's Kelly Higginson. She's from the CEO of Restaurants Canada. So with respect to this, Pascal Theriault is Director of Farm Management and Technology Program at McGill. And on the line, Pascal, if I can, this is not a simple solution one way or the other here, is it, with what would happen if there were tariffs?
Oh, it is not a simple solution. And we've heard a call for boycott. And really, I took time to walk through the grocery store aisle, and as a consumer, it's extremely confusing to try to think about boycotting American products.
All right. So listen, I know it's difficult because you have to do a little homework here to try to figure it out. I was amazed to read, I didn't know this, Habitant pea soup, right, which used to be Canadian, is no longer Canadian. So you think you might be buying a local product. Turns out it's not. And I'm sure there are many other products like that.
And the opposite is also true. I mean, we think about Lay's potato chips that many people like. It's an American company, but they're all made in Lévis on the south of Quebec City, and the potatoes come from Île d'Orléans. So you have Quebec employees, Quebec farmers producing potato chips, but ultimately it's an American company. So it's not because it's a U.S. company, it's necessarily worse than a Canadian company or a company that we think is Canadian that is not in the end.
So I have seen some grocery chains already decide to put up made in Canada or produced in Canada stickers. Do you think that works?
I think if the goal is really to go with a boycott, it will help because many companies already put the label on their product, but we have to look for that label. In Quebec, we have Aliments du Québec that has a very rigid cahier de charge, so that makes it much easier for consumers to know it's coming from here. The notion product of Canada, there's a regulation around it. If it's a product of Canada, it means that at least 98% of ingredients are from Canada, and final processing is in Canada. As a product made in Canada is at least 51%. So it's less, but it's still mostly Canadian.
Mostly Canadian. So we're splitting hairs here, right? But that's what it comes down to. You got to wonder, too, if we get to this point, people, and I bring this up all the time, and I brought it up in the interview with the woman from Restaurant Brands as well, interprovincial trade where we can't even bring products in from another province, even though it would make perfect sense, especially now. Does that change? Can you see that changing?
Well, I think that the little fear we had earlier this week will help us make those changes. And hopefully it's going to be much easier to move products across provincial borders because that's the key to it. And just alcohol is a complete mess to try to go from Quebec to Ontario or even to get wine from British Columbia when it's the same exact country.
Yeah. She described the situation was something like simple, like getting cattle from Alberta into next or literally into Manitoba, where you have to go through an inspection a second time. Then if the trucks don't meet the requirements of, say, Quebec, if they were going to come here, there are a lot of impediments in the way to try to make this thing work.
And there has to be ways that we can all sit down together, the different ministries of agriculture, and set up rules that would be standardized to help move the product easier between provinces. Because honestly, we've been relying with shipping to the U.S. because it's easy.
Yeah, it is easy, and it's been easy for such a long time. So this is the wake-up call to say it may not be this way forever. So we have to mobilize. We need to do something. What's your recommendation to consumers who want to do the right thing?
Well, look for the Aliments du Québec logo. Look for the Product of Canada logo. Keep in mind that when you buy products that come from our supplied managed sector, so eggs, poultry, and dairy, they tend to be Canadian product. And for dairy product, look for the little blue cow. If you have the little blue cow, it is Canadian milk. Okay,
so there's some tips right off the top. By the way, with your reference to, say, Lay's potato chips, right? Yes, they're Quebec potatoes. They're packaged by, people working here, even though it's an American company. And Kraft peanut butter falls into that same category, right? They make it in TMR, Canadian workers making it there, but it's an American company.
It is an American company. Peanuts don't necessarily come from Canada, but it is processed. There is value added here. And, we had the same call for boycott for Walmart and Costco,
right,
which ultimately are retailers that carry a lot of Canadian products.
Do you think that, Pascal, the government needs to step in here somehow, provincially anyway? We can't speak for the rest of the governments across the country, but for Quebec to come up with a plan?
Well, the Quebec government, during the pandemic, actually already came out saying, listen, guys, if you get an extra $12 of Quebec product in your basket every week, it's $1 billion in the Quebec economy you're putting in. So maybe they just need to repeat it even more.
All right. Are you worried, by the way, or a little, feeling a little bit better today, given the fact that we managed to dodge this first round of tariffs?
Absolutely not. The uncertainty is even worse than a big deception. And we went through that 4 years ago again. And what I'm worried about is that moving forward, we can't rely on whatever you will be saying, because you could be saying the exact opposite the next day.
There is that. All right, Pascal, I thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
My pleasure.
Pascal Theriault, Director of Farm Management and Technology over at McGill. He's right. As much as you want to feel good about the fact that, okay, great, it's not going to happen for the next 30 days, this great uncertainty built into this, maybe he's right. Maybe that makes it even worse. We just don't know.